Hollywood Brown, big offseason acquisition last year. Poised to have a big year. We saw all the videos from Texas. He was supposed to dominate, but ended up getting hurt in the first play of preseason, which took him out for all but 5 games this year, where he tallied 14 catches for 141 yards. And recently, actually, this is last week, so Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported that the Chiefs, I actually have the whole thing right here. Hold on, so let me pull it up. So this is from Jeremy Fowler. Reported the Chiefs very much want to keep receiver Hollywood Brown, who should have a good market due to teams' desire for speed options on the outside, which is something you said before. Mahomes has advocated for signing Brown last year and will likely do so again. Will another star quarterback like Josh Allen be next? People with the Chiefs I spoke to this week believe that Allen has long wanted to play with Hollywood Brown. So last year, the Chiefs signed Hollywood Brown to a 1-year deal, $7 million, but it could be up to $11 million with the incentives. Obviously, didn't reach the incentives because he was hurt all year. But JD, when you kind of putting yourself in Hollywood Brown's shoes and just in kind of both shoes, right? You play in the NFL, so you can kind of see the thing here, right? So you can see either, what it's like to be with the Chiefs, right? He's been in the organization for a year, but there's potential of Josh Allen trying to lure you. Obviously, money's going to talk at the end of the day, but where do you see and what do you make of this whole apparent interest by the Buffalo Bills with Hollywood Brown?
I believe they're serious about it. And it makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. I think part of the problem that Josh Allen had to deal with was he didn't really have a reliable receiver that he could throw the ball to. Their guys were relying on, obviously, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. But then all of a sudden, Coleman didn't really work out as their number one. Curtis Samuel came in, did a little bit. He started coming on toward the end. Shakur was the one that he was throwing to more than anybody else. And then Amari Cooper, has gotten a little bit longer in their tooth. So Hollywood Brown, to them, makes a lot of sense, right? And so if you do that, you can let some other guys go and let him be your deep route, your deep runner. And so I think that's what he was missing. I wondered about that with Josh Allen, and he leave Davis and Diggs both leave, and now all of a sudden he's supposed to try to make something happen in the wide receiver room. So free agency, they got Curtis Samuels, didn't quite work out like he wanted, but he did a little bit. But I think that's what they were really desiring, of having a guy like a legit receiver as Hollywood Brown. And so I think it is something serious, right? You're looking at also this is a team that is a contender for the AFC. We understand that. That's one of our biggest rivals. So why not go ahead and try to capture one of our biggest assets? We don't know if we're going to be able to re-sign him this past year. Does Hollywood Brown go chase a check? So it just makes sense to me for them to try to pursue Hollywood Brown. Why not?
So my big thing is, and I've seen a lot of people say this, that, oh yeah, Hollywood's going to chase the bag, but the biggest question mark for Hollywood Brown going into last offseason, which is the reason why we kind of got him at that 1-year, $7 million deal worth $11 million with incentives, was because of the injury history that he had, the foot, the ankle, different things, just kind of a culmination of stuff over the years. And then he came off a 51 catch for 574 yards season with 4 touchdowns with Arizona his last year there, and he missed a few games. Mm-hmm. And we were able to get him at that number, the 1 year, $7 million with $11 million in incentives. So it's like, how is he going to break? And I get, you talked about it even in their report, speed, speed, teams will pay a premium for speed.
Absolutely.
But we're coming off a year where he didn't really do much. I mean, the injury problems, different types of injury, but that still carried over with him, even with this 1-year deal. Obviously, freak. We know the sternoclavicular thing is a very freak injury that happened. But the injuries did continue, right? So it's like, I don't see him getting much more than that deal that he got last year. I mean, do you disagree?
I think teams project what guys are able to do. And they know that this was like an anomaly as far as like the clavicle thing. And so for them, they're just like, hey, look, we wanted to see if he was going to be able to be healthy. So it wasn't up with his legs, which was, some of his injuries he's had in the past. But they know he's a talented receiver. We know he's a talented receiver. And so it's almost like we can't be discouraged because what we're trying to use, to sign him for a team-friendly deal. Teams are sitting there saying, like, look, we believe that you already have it. We believe that you could be healthy enough that you don't have to keep doing team-friendly deals. Let's go ahead and get you for a longer-term deal at a place that you can help us out right now. And so what we do is we want to bank on, part of the negotiation of, well, you kind of got hurt and it was kind of a wait and see. Well, you just got paid money and didn't really get to play. That's unfortunate. Happens in the NFL. You can't control those things. But it was kind of like a 1 year prove it deal. Well, he didn't hardly have a chance to really prove it. And when he got back, Marcus, we utilized for one game, and all of a sudden we went away from him. And I get Xavier Worthy was, we high on the hog for him. But Hollywood Brown was here too. We should have utilized him the last few games. Try to make sure, we was going to try to be able to keep him around. So, yeah. Do we get a healthy Hollywood Brown? Does Hollywood Brown want to sign a team-friendly deal? What are we going to try to get him for now? Are we going to lowball him? Let's just talk about negotiations here. And let's just be honest. If the Chiefs could get him for a deal, they're going to try to. But Hollywood Brown is sitting there saying, look, this is still my career. I gotta do what's best for me. And if somebody's willing to put some dollars and ducats in my pocket, I got to go for it. I'm sorry. I have to, especially if it's a contender or a team that has a chance and opportunity to make it to, a Super Bowl. You still always had to go through the Chiefs, especially in the AFC. But now to get a legitimate guy if they decide to pursue him or something like that. So we can't be mad. It was like, well, he didn't really play for us. And, we're going to try to hit you for a team-friendly deal. He's got to do what's in his best interest, man. That's how it works. That's how it works.
What do you say because I'm seeing a lot of this online where people, because I think on our Twitter account, we talked about from last week, you said your top 5 guys you want to bring back. Hollywood Brown was one of them. I think, and I had a bunch of people, everyone commented, say their top 5 guys, which was a great tweet. Everyone was kind of weighing in with their 5 guys. And most people had Hollywood Brown. And I saw a couple people commenting saying, we don't need Hollywood. We have Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice coming back. We talked about this when we did have both of them, right? And some people saying at the time when we drafted Worthy, was like, oh, that's duplicative of 2 guys do the same thing. It's like, not really. Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, while they're both fast guys, they're not the same kind of receiver. They're different. And I know stature-wise, very similar, right? But as far as what they do, very different kind of guy. And having both of them, we were excited about the fact that we could have both of them. And now next year, people are saying, oh, we don't need him. We have Rice and Worthy. Well, Rice coming off an injury. Rice may be suspended for the car thing from last year. Right. Justin Watson's a free agent. DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent. We do have Xavier Worthy. Sky Moore, I don't know what's going to happen with him, right? But like Juju, free agent. So that receiver room, much like the D-line room, is kind of bare. And it's just right off, say, we don't need Hollywood. Blah. So then it's like, okay, then we go back to where we were 2 years ago, where we didn't really have any weapons in the receiver room. I do think for people to write off Hollywood and say, nah, we don't need him. Obviously, Pat's a big fan of him. We all thought he was going to be a wide receiver 1 last year, based on the way they're working with each other in Texas. So to write it off Hollywood and say, nah, we don't need him, Buffalo can have him. It's like, no, I'm not there with you. And also, too, as far as for people saying like he needs to get paid less than what he got last year, I don't think that. I honestly say you give him the same exact deal that you gave him this past year.
You could do that. I mean, you really can. But Buffalo's, they putting their homework in as well. And so they're going to make it hard for him. They're going to come in and they'll definitely try to negotiate, try to get him at a better deal, or at least give him something that will make him leave from the Chiefs. That because it's the same thing like Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek, we couldn't really sign him for what he wanted. And then when he was going to sign, he was like, hey, he was going to take the team-friendly deal. Miami comes in and say, we're going to give you what you want. We're going to drop you a little bit more money in your pocket. Let's see how you feel about that. Not only that, but also, too, you can help us win and beat the Chiefs if you're really that guy. So then, this is what, he has to contemplate in his head, Hollywood Brown. I seen what Richie says, he wants to win a ring. He knows his best shot at winning a ring is with the Chiefs. Well, if you're in the AFC Championship game and it was with the Chiefs, so you still have a legitimate shot, a legitimate contender. We're not talking about Jacksonville here. We're talking about, Buffalo Bills. And if they're sitting there and they can convince him, you are the missing piece that we need, okay, to beat the Chiefs to get over top, we're going to pay you for that. He'll definitely entertain it. He will, unless he's just so much happier here with the Chiefs. And maybe the Chiefs do right by him. Maybe they do right. But one thing we cannot do, we cannot go in lowballing in markets, and it's not going to work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. And the thing is, we're going to lose on a few guys because we just don't have the room to pay them. And it's like, hey, man, you ain't got the money. Hey, sorry for you.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like if last year your whole idea of signing him with Brett Veach and Hollywood Brown, like come here for a 1-year deal, see how it works, $11 million with incentives, we'll sign you a long-term deal if it works out. He never really got to play. And I do want to ask you this based on you talked about how we kind of went away from him. Looking at his snap counts the last 2 games, so AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. So he played AFC Championship game. He had 67% of the snap counts, so 34 snaps, and then 43 snaps in the Super Bowl, 65% of the snap count. Now, and compare that to Worthy, who had 82% in both games as far as snap count wise. Hopkins, for 31% and then 18% in the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. So that's a different story altogether, which is crazy to me, which still doesn't make any sense to me. It goes along with the whole idea of the playbook not really making any sense or the way they were calling the game. But do you think the injury, we talked about injuries tonight, but do you think his sternoclavicular injury was something that maybe played a part as to why they didn't play him as much as we thought?
I mean, I didn't hear anything about it. I don't think it did, to be honest with you. I think they were legitimately trying to get him involved a little bit because, like I said, it was like some deeper pass routes, some things he was kind of running, some wrap routes and whatnot, but we just weren't able to get the ball to him. Should he have been more of a priority? Sure. Why not? If we got a guy that can run, who could absolutely take the top off the defense, utilize it. That's what you need to do. And so kind of going back to like you were talking about, Joe, passing game coordinator, being somewhat scared, like, hey man, look, we got Hollywood Brown, we got Xavier Worthy, we got these guys out here. We got to throw the ball to them. Let's give them a chance. Let's give them opportunity. Okay. If everything's at his disposal to use it. Use it. So this is what it's going to be, man.
I will say, if you do look at the stats, I kind of did. It was pretty much the same thing, right? So Hollywood only played in 5 games with us, and Cooper played in 10 games with them. Hollywood averaged like 0.2 more receptions per game. So it was like 2.6 for Amari Cooper, the amount of receptions he had, and then 2.8 for Hollywood. 2.8% receptions per game if you kind of did the math on it. Yards wise, Cooper had a little bit more if you averaged it out per game. So very. That's, like if you say, oh yeah, like he had 5 games, he had 10 games. So like, it's not like you're getting utilized that much more. And I will say Buffalo, for Josh Allen did win the MVP, but Buffalo's offense was kind of, it wasn't like our explosive offenses back in the day, like, a couple of years ago when Mahomes won the MVP. We were going out throwing 400 yards, 300 yards every game. Bigger numbers there. Whereas Buffalo is kind of more of a spread it out kind of like thing, with Shakir, Mac Hollins, Cooper, Samuel, Kincaid, Knox, a lot of different weapons over there. So it's I think it's kind of similar to what we did this past year.
I'd agree. So he'll be able to fit right there in that scheme. You got a younger guy instead of like with a Cooper, you got a younger guy in Brown. So, and we seen what he was able to do during the offseason. He worked hard. He's a hard worker. He's a guy that understands the game. Like you said, Pat took to him, immediately. I think both those guys like that relationship. Did it really come to fruition? No, because of the injury. And then, of course, toward the end of the season, you just wanted to see more. They left him wanting more from Hollywood Brown. Now, I'm not saying that this thing is over. This is just kind of rumors until something like the deal gets done and whatnot. We don't know where it's going to lead us. But when you have a guy like that with that type of talent, just for me, you got to utilize it. I get peppering the ball around, but then there's certain guys that like we got to feed the ball to these dudes. right? And so if you said if you do have a Worthy, Rice comes back, how that's going to work with suspension and everything else, and then you have a Hollywood Brown. So we don't quite know what it's going to be with Travis Kelce. That's in the air. We don't quite know what it's going to go with that. So yeah, I don't.
To me, you sign Hollywood Brown, you're set at receiver. You have Hollywood, you have Worthy, and you have Rice. That's it. The questions, I think Nana might have said, someone said earlier, the questions that we've talked about. Yeah, Valerie Sanders said, we can finally have a season where conversation isn't around wide receiver. Exactly. You do that, you're set because you know what Worthy can do. You know what Rice can do when he's back from his suspension. When they do lay that down, and then you have Hollywood Brown, you're set. You're set there. And then Kelce comes back, and you have Noah Gray. You're set of your pass catching weapons.
At least for 2 years, 2 to 3 years, you set for that. Okay, knowing what you're going into training camp, what you will have for the season. And that's a beautiful thing to hang your hat on. It is. It's a huge thing. Question goes into, do we have the cap space and the money to do it? What about all the other hosts that we have around on the team? That's the question. That's something they have to go work out, brother. That's it.
He just got to earn his money this offseason. Yeah. Interesting comment from Mike. I was thinking about this as we were talking about the snap counts for Hollywood and D-Hop, but Mike Brandon reads our mind like usual. It's hard for my brain to comprehend that we don't run the ball enough, and we also didn't get the ball to our playmaker wide receivers enough. Forget about getting the ball to them. We barely saw D-Hop on the field, and then I read that Hollywood's only getting like 60% of the snaps. I mean, I don't understand what was going on in this playoffs. Like, do not get it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Stu said, with a name like Hollywood, you need to keep him. It's not his name, man. It's his talent as well. So, I agree with that. Like you gotta use them. You got to, man. Come on. Like I said, what good is it to have Lamborghinis and Maseratis and all type of in your garage and not even using them? So. Yeah.
So before we move on to the next topic, Hollywood Brown, I know he was your top 5 guy last week, but reading all this, you still maintain that we need to bring him back?
Hollywood Brown? Yeah, we can afford it. We can afford it. Yeah. Because then all of a sudden, if you don't address that then you might have to go to the draft. Because if you go in, he was like, okay, we got Worthy, we got Rasheed Rice. Do we trust the young guys in, Justin Ross, right? We had to keep bringing his name up. And,
I wouldn't mind Justin Ross as wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. I wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, Hollywood, hopefully Mahomes sees that Josh Allen's going to try to recruit him, and hopefully the competitive edge that Mahomes has is like, nah, I'm going to make sure he stays. And like I think I brought up on Monday, if you look at the Super Bowl, when the games in the end we're about to lose, Hollywood goes up to Mahomes and says, it's been great playing with you. I'm lucky to call you my quarterback or whatever. And Mahomes says, we'll be back here next year. Don't worry. We'll be back. We'll be back here next year. So we will be back here next year. So hopefully that is a sign of them inking up a deal, hopefully.
Hey, man, I hear you. Hey, I'm right there with it. But
money talks.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, guess what? We're going to restructure that deal. I know you want nice things. I get it. You want nice things. Well, guess what? You're going to have to pay for nice things too. So are you willing to do it? And look, I'm sure Pat would do a team-friendly deal to get certain guys here that he needs. So it wouldn't just be wide receiver. It'd be, probably tackle and all other things too.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.